Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Because now I know when something happens in our lives that is unexpected, you have to go into it in order to ever have any hope of coming through it. So when you go, guess what? When you come out the other side, you grow.
Brought out more in me than I thought that I didn't even know that I had.
That has given all of us a great hope for what we can do with our own messages, our abilities to deliver, but most importantly, to deliver it in an authentic and very, very intriguing way.
Have you ever been in something or felt something where the only way you felt you could deal with it was to leave, get away? I thought that was the meaning of control. It took me 4.5 years to stop looking around the room of my life, of my journey, of my purpose, digging in cushions for a remote that never existed. Looking, re-looking, going back and upgrading, bringing in and pulling out things that do not serve you must go. Those things out in this world that are designed to bring us down, to keep us down, put their foot on our neck and whisper to us that we're never good enough, they don't whisper. They yell at us from all directions, top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, side to side, corner to corner, and corner to corner, 365 days. When somebody asks you about yourself, don't you dare whisper. When they ask you to raise your hand, don't you dare half raise it. When they ask you something good about you, you scream it with all you have. Come on now, get up, get up. Tell me who you are. Show me who you are. Greatest truth of all, that not everyone has to remain lost. This world is changing more and more every day, and we've decided to change right along with it. My name is Dr. Loren Michael Harris, and I'm the president of Trajectory TV Network. At Trajectory, our vision is to provide a creative platform for top content creators and storytellers from around the globe. We're also dedicated to providing this world with content that is healing, educational, empowering, exciting, and above all else, entertaining and transparent. So right now, I invite all of you who believe yourselves to be global game changers to use the link found here and simply take a chance. Schedule a virtual chat where you'll have the opportunity to share your vision for your very own global television show with me, the network president. So use that link, and together, let's begin changing and healing this world, one story at a time. And remember, whether you have years of experience in front of the camera or zero experience, it doesn't matter. What matters the most is your desire to share great content through television and a willingness to share it with passion and with purpose. You might ask, how do I know if I've fallen in love with my purpose and my purpose has fallen in love with me? It's easy when you've lost your voice because you just can't stop talking about it.
I'll see you soon.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How explicit do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. But you walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight.
You know, every morning I ring the bell telling y'all to wake up. Well, today I am turning the bell on myself. Oh my goodness. Got in late last night. Flights are being delayed and this, that, and the other. And, ooh, Lord have mercy. Pray for me. You see, I didn't even put the other banner back up over there where the robes, I just drug the robes. The robes are never on screen. And I was like, I am not going upstairs and getting that banner because, look, I need a conveyor belt to get me back up to the main house because, Lord, man, getting old is a trip. I remember I used to be like, I'm going to the airport. I'm going to the airport. I can't wait. I love TSA. You know who I'm most envious of right now? Barbara Eden. Because I wish I was Jeannie and could just go, I am not kidding you. But listen, hey, waking up and having something to do that you love is a blessing, no matter how tired you may be, right? So welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. Yeah, I was in St. Louis. Meet me in St. Louis. I was there all weekend. Great event. It really was. Hats off to Brenda Ringwood, Terrence Lethbridge, and all of the Becoming the Best You team. They really knocked it out of the park. And they knocked it out from 8 in the morning until the wee hours of the morning. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah. But yeah, met a lot of great people. Got to unveil my new work for the season, entitled Creating Divine Memories. And the interesting part about that is I came to that choice through an ancestral experience that I had in my driveway. And I'm going to talk to our guest today because he works with people on that very sort of thing. So he was here, I think it was about a year ago, he tells me. I asked him this morning. Gary Stewart, he sent me a guest not too long ago. So I was like, well, wait a minute. It's been a minute since Gary's been here. Let's get him back. I heard you before. Welcome, Lucy. Girl, needy much? What about me? I'm kidding. This is my sidekick. She's my Ed McMahon, Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. And that is the bell of purpose. And you know why I have it, why I ring it, so that you don't miss some truth. So back to Gary. So Gary, I've never met anybody who does what he does. And I was involved in something with him last year. I let him tell you about that. But he is a 5-time #1 international best-selling author. Get this. He's a constellation facilitator. Right. Now, don't get me to try to explain that. I'm going to let him do that. He is an oracle card creator. He's a speaker, and he's worked in the healing arts for over 30 years, and actually says that he has facilitated over 16,000 family constellations, helping thousands of constellation workshop attendees. He puts it right out there that all the work that he's done has put him on the cutting edge, where he applies his techniques to expand consciousness and resolve lifelong challenges, stagnation, and the breaking of negative family patterns. There's a whole bunch of certifications and things behind his name, but you just need to experience Gary to know what this gift of his, and it really is a gift. I've experienced it personally. So he's got a lot of new stuff he wants to share with us today. So without further ado, put some hearts on the screen, even if it's the replay you're watching. I'll see them later, but it is not what I see. It's what the universe sees. Bless in the manner in which you'd like to be blessed. So even virtually, we can give a standing ovation. Throw some hearts on the screen as we're joined by our good friend, Gary Stewart. Here he comes. Good morning, Gary.
Great. Good morning.
Oh, I love your little thing behind you.
Yeah. It's a new screen I got. I like it.
I do too. Oh, that is really nice. I've never seen one like that. You're the first. And the way you got that light you kind of look like, I feel like I should be asking you for some courage.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
So, Gary, you have a constellation themed shirt on.
Yes, absolutely. I found this. It's kind of like an abstract universe. I love this shirt.
Yes. Listen, this is perfect. Not because I'm almost falling asleep, but because I like to give the guest just a minute or two to just, instead of just me reading a bio that just doesn't get it, just for you and the audience to have some personal one-on-one time where you can explain what you do, and then I'll come back in and we'll get started. How's that sound?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm going to dip out. It's all you. Take it away, Gary.
Okay. Yeah, so constellations has nothing to do with astrology. It was a term created by Bert Hellinger when he would see people in your family system. So at a traditional workshop, you have attendees and they might be a representative for your dead grandmother, and they get a download that's actually very accurate from that dead ancestor. And it could be a great grandparent that you never met this lifetime. But what we're doing is going into the energy of the consciousness that person carried during their lifetime. And what we find with constellations is most of the negative stuff kind of lives on in us as their descendants because it wasn't resolved before they died. So what's interesting about the constellation experience, we can set up many things. It can be used for organizations. You need a book title for your new book, and you have 3 choices. And the people in the field, like the audience attending, will decide if they like A, B, or C. So that works for organizations, book titles, pricing for your business or product. And but more importantly, we all have a lot of ancestral baggage that's not even ours. Now, one reason we have this is because basically our DNA, it's kind of funny, is recycled. We have a bit of our fathers, a bit of our mothers. Of course, we're a new being, but at the same time, we have the entire history of 2 family bloodlines that make up our DNA. So if your ancestral great-grandfather had trauma, you may carry that even though you didn't have the traumatic experience. As the Bible says, sins of the father end up on the sons or daughters, make it gender for everyone. And so what we find is we're carrying stuff that doesn't belong to us. So constellations, actually, the live process shows you what needs to be healed or sent back to the past so you don't have to carry it in the present for the future. Because ultimately, we're the dreams come true of our ancestors. We have a life that they couldn't dream of living, so we have an opportunity to maximize that. and not carry the pain and anguish that they went through. So ultimately, it leads me to the realization that everything's a gift. The fact that we're even alive is a gift, considering some of the people that were tortured in their lifetime, whether it was slavery, genocide in Nazi Germany, starvation in Ireland. Just think of all the baggage that people might have died from, and yet we're still here. So that's kind of the miracle of life. And talk about creating divine memories that Loren was talking about. We are the divine memory of our ancestors.
Oh, that's so interesting. Gary, because I have some real deep questions this morning.
I'm up and ready, even though it's early.
See that. Yeah, because, well, interestingly enough, I had this ancestral. You got to be careful how you say that name because it could sound like something else.
Yeah.
Right. I had my own personal ancestral experience, which I'll talk about with you after you and I had that session. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that because I think it cleared something that made what happened with me possible. But let me ask you this. First of all, how did you find your way to this work? I mean, it's not like you were looking in the want ads and somebody said,
well, in a way I was. That's what's funny. There was a Whole Person magazine in Los Angeles with all the alternative healers, and someone had a little strip ad. What if the pain you're carrying is not yours? And I went, bingo, I totally get that. So I called the person. They had just moved to LA from Europe and said, I'm trying to get this modality exposure in LA. And I was doing massage and healing, and I was looking, I said, there's something out there I'm supposed to do. I don't know what it is, but it has something to do with energy. And sure enough, it was like, boom. And so she invited me to a workshop in a living room. She was just getting started in Brentwood, California. And she said, oh, I need someone to step in for a great grandfather. And I said, okay, I'll just stand there. I get this huge download that he was a farmer. Everyone left. He died depressed on his farm and just was forgotten about. And it happened to be in Lithuania, and I know nothing about Lithuania. And I said, where did this information come from? What did I just tap into? And it was absolutely amazing. So the resolution that came through, the client's problem, she said, I don't know who I am, and I don't know why I feel this way. The minute we sorted out that we got back to her roots, that she's Lithuanian, and the ancestors were forgotten about in the old world, so to speak. She was fully conscious and present, and we both were crying together, saying, wow, it was like the reuniting of her with her ancestral lineage. And it was just the most amazing experience of my life. I said, I have to learn this technique. This is
wow. So
I've experienced.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not something you hear people talk about every day. Now, we do hear people from time to time talk about that thing known as generational curses.
Yes. Yeah.
And that sort of thing, which kind of fits in with that biblical reference you made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But that's where a lot of people leave it. But this is not necessarily, or is it?
Well, sometimes that does show up. I'm not a big believer in witchcraft and all that stuff. I mean, it does exist, obviously. Sure. But there are kind of curses, and I've dealt with it many times. Actually, it shows up more in broken relationships. I've had a lot of clients who the father or mother might have dumped the person they were going to marry because they knocked up somebody. And that person who was jilted, so to speak, put a curse on the man for breaking up because they were so angry that the engagement was foiled by him cheating on her before they got married. One interesting case, it actually was in LA, that the client was I forget what the client was working on, but we added a representative for this woman who got jilted. And this rep was so angry at the room. It was just, I just let it rip. She was so angry at him for cheating on her. Now, mind you, the woman he cheated on, he ended up having 13 children with. So it probably was no joyride for the woman he cheated on. But what was most interesting is the client had her 12 siblings all over the world. They were Asian, so some were in Singapore, some were in Japan, Australia. They all called her the next day and said, my stomach feels good. I didn't know my stomach was feeling bad, but somehow my body feels better than it's ever felt. So that therapeutic exercise of letting that jilted woman express her anger in the field at the man. All the children were carrying that for her, even though they didn't know this woman. So in a way, she was cursing him for breaking up with her and cheating on her, getting someone else pregnant to cancel their wedding date. And that ended up in all the children's bodies. Now, mind you, they didn't know this woman, but her anger and vitriol towards the father was emanating in the children's bodies physically as stomach issues.
Now, you know what that reminds me of? You know how you hear about when they say like the method in which animals are killed or tortured that we eat.
Yeah.
And they say that, you know, when we eat that, it carries over. I don't know how to explain it like I've heard it, but do you know what I'm alluding to?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's how, you know, in the Jewish religion, eating kosher, the act of kosher is that they let the blood drain out of the animals when they kill it, so that you won't eat the fear and the like, I'm being, you know, because the animals have
trauma,
this, you know, and that fear at the moment of death will be in the meat or the chicken or whatever. And that's why kosher, they kind of purify it. Well, number one, it's blessed by a rabbi, but at the same time, the way they kill it, so the energy of the death of the animal won't be in the food you eat. And that's one thing with kosher is, as far as I know, is based on.
Right. So what about this, Gary? Does it matter? Because, you know, there are people like myself who were adopted or don't, you know, I mean, I did find my birth family at age 32, but there are people, of course, who never make that connection.
Yeah.
So what's it like for people? Because, like, let's say, you know, your entire family history.
Yeah.
Well, somebody steps in and, you know, this thing happens.
Right.
And it lines up with the stories you've heard.
Right.
Or, you know, oh, that's so-and-so. But
yeah.
What about those people who have no reference points whatsoever to their ancestry? How does it work for them? How do they know that, okay, how does it make sense to them is what I'm asking.
Right. Well, I've had many adopted people do constellations, and ironically, after the constellation, within a month or two, their biological family contacts them, which is quite interesting that would happen. But generally with adopted people, we say they have two family systems. They have their biological line, and then they have this situational line of the adoptive family. So I had one person in LA who her family contacted her after we did the constellation, and she knew she was Mormon and that her mother was sent to LA for 9 months to have the baby. Then she could go back to Utah, virginized.
Okay.
And the family system. Well, it turned out when she met her brothers and sisters, they were raised trailer trash in a trailer park with an alcoholic mother with a string of men, violent men coming in and out. And they told this to her, and she grew up in Whittier with one of the best friends of President Nixon, who was from Whittier, California. And she had an upper middle class lifestyle and a Republican family system. And her newly found brothers and sisters said, well, who got the raw deal here? You or us? We said, we feel we got the raw deal, and you had a great life compared to what we had to go through with our mother.
Wow. So many stories. Are you ever going to write a book about?
I have tons. Yeah, I have tons. I have about many on Amazon. Yeah.
Well, I know you have a bunch of books, but have you written, or are you going to, one about these stories?
Oh, yeah. Well, in the book, Healing Human History, I covered about 13 of the top stories,
Okay.
which are really historical references that came to us in the constellation. One of the most amazing ones, I worked with someone on their trauma over being a Vietnam. Their father was a Vietnam vet who had a flashback and wanted to kill the whole family, thinking they were the Viet Cong. That shows you how deep the trauma is from our Vietnam vets. But here the mother locked herself in the bedroom, but pushed the client out to deal with the father. Now look at the levels of that. She didn't care if her daughter got killed, who was the client, or the daughter was so smart and quick on her feet, she talked her father out of the flashback, and she's alive today. So anyway, she comes back a month later. I want to work on prosperity. I said, okay. So she had picked a rep for her being prosperous. She touched her on the back. When you touch the rep on the back, a person attending the workshop, the ancestral line goes through you into the rep, and they communicate the raw data. They didn't even know prosperity was her goal. Excuse me. And she said, oh my God, I'm just rocking back and forth and I don't know why. So I keep getting, it seemed trite or cliche. Ask her about the Titanic. Ask her about the third time it said, will you ask her about the Titanic? I said, this seems ridiculous. I said, I keep getting guided to ask you about the Titanic and I don't know why. And she said, oh, my great grandmother was the first one on the lifeboat in the Titanic. I said, why didn't you put that in your questionnaire? She said, you wanted me to go back over 100 years? And it was absolutely amazing. So what happened, which showed up really, she had survivor guilt, ancestral survival guilt. So imagine a pregnant woman in the lifeboat the night of the Titanic, as we've seen with the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, floating there pregnant with all these dead frozen bodies around her. So the emotional equation that came from that, you get to be alive, you get no extras. You're lucky you're alive. That's all you get. So 2 weeks later, she calls me. She said, you'll never guess what? I got the best paying job of my life. I have to move at the university in Petaluma, California. I have to relocate, but I'm getting $6,000 a month for teaching one class once a week. I said, looks like the Titanic is done. You're finally successful. So who would think that there'd be 100-year arc of a trauma manifesting in someone's life actually as poverty consciousness?
Wow. We're going to take just a short 1-minute break
Sure.
Because when we come back, I want to go to where this work originated.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that people can understand how it came about and why are we just now hearing about it?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And that and a lot more ahead of us when we return with the incredible Gary Stewart. Don't go away. This is a great time to share the broadcast out. We'll be right back.
You can navigate the legal and emotional journey of divorce and exit a marriage the way you entered it, with mindfulness, love, and respect. Solace Divorce Mediation is a full-service law practice helping couples focus on the health and well-being of children and their forever co-parenting family. Our streamlined divorce journey offers flat fees with an estimated completion time frame of 2 to 4 months. If you or a friend need us, visit solacedivorce.com.
See how quick that was? Told you we'd be right back. Welcome back, Gary Stewart. We're talking about the work that Gary does, and it's in the quantum field, which that word alone is intimidating to a lot of people. It's like engineering math or something to people. But I'd be interested in hearing a little bit about the origins of this work, because I'm sure you're well versed in that. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, Bert Hellinger was one of my teachers. I've had a couple of teachers, in 1998, a long time ago, it'll be about 25 years. And he was invited. Actually, I want to give women some credit here. Female psychotherapists, Virginia Satir, and other psychotherapists in Germany were doing this live experience of psychology. They called it the architecture of the family system. And they had asked Bert Hellinger, my teacher, the person who coined the word constellations, because of the pictograph aspect of what it looked like in the family system. So what they would do is they would say, Bert, would you come and be a rep for the males in the family system tonight at our workshop on stage, which was, a lot of them were filmed. And he said, sure, I'll do it. So he stood there. He said, where did this download come from? Here I'm standing here 1 minute, and then I'm like a whole person's lifetime is flashing before me, like in a nanosecond. And he was so, like I was with that Lithuanian constellation, my first experience, he felt the same way. I got to learn about this. Where did this come from? And I don't want people to be intimidated by quantum. Quantum actually means whole. So if you look at holistic healing, that we're including everything. So, a lot of Western medicine is let's cure the symptom here. But holistic healers say, well, is this symptom from your emotions? Is it from trauma? Where did this come from? Let's look at the big picture rather than just the little picture. Both are valid, but it's an expanded view of consciousness, which is quantum. And Einstein was even a fan of that. He said, I could never develop what I developed without going into my imagination, which his imagination was the quantum realm of trying to figure out the universe through mathematics, coming up with the EMC squared equation to understand the general theory of relativity. And so interestingly, I wrote a book with Amika Swami called Quantum Activation, and we did a 15-minute experience in his living room when we were talking about writing a book together. I was more on the emotional, spiritual side. He was on the technical side. And in 10 minutes, I gave him his whole life story, what happened in India, about his mother having a miscarriage between child 3 and 4, and the father was this, and he said, well, how did you come up with my exact history? And I never told you anything. I said, I tapped into the quantum consciousness of your whole family system. And in 10 minutes, because I've been doing the work for 25 years, at that point, it was about 23 years. And he said, I have to rethink the universe, that you could access that without me telling you anything about my childhood or what happened to me in India. So it's like consciousness is out there. It's out there for everyone. A lot of people think like spirit or consciousness is owned by the church or whatever, and they like you to believe that, but it's equal for all to share. We all share it. Sometimes, the insights that I get, there's only one consciousness and we all share it.
Right.
It's how we get to that is different. But as the old saying goes, all roads lead to Rome. So no matter if this path is better for you, great. If this path is better for you, if constellation does it, great. Whatever path you get there for deeper understanding is the best path for you.
Absolutely. What about, I would imagine that from time to time, because a lot of families are embroiled within secrets.
Yes, absolutely.
Family secrets.
Yeah.
What happens in this house stays in this house. What about when something comes forward that people weren't necessarily looking for?
All the time. And the biggest, what the biggest one is? Incest, secret sexual abuse. Hands down, more women than men, but it's in a lot of family system, and it's kind of the darkest, dirtiest secret. And it really liberates people when it comes out. And I was working with a woman with inoperable liver cancer, and she was older, almost 80. And we did actually a group I belong to called the EBC Evolutionary Business Council. So we had a group thing to demonstrate it to over 100 people. So we had her as the client. And now, mind you, almost no one in the room knew her personally. A few of us did. And every woman that we brought in, her mother or grandmother, they held their mouth and they held their liver. No one knew we were working on hopefully helping her liver cancer. She did go into remission. And then we did like 4 generations of women. They held their mouth in their stomach. And then I finally said, then I put a man outside the room to be an ancestor of about 150 years ago. And I said the word incest. All the women dropped their hands from their mouth and their livers instantly. It was like you felt like a bolt of lightning go through the room, like it was a secret. And she said to the group, quite honestly, which is fine, she said, there's no sexual perpetration in my immediate family or my childhood. I said, this is ancestral, and the resentment in the liver and the silence of not the unspeakable, not being able to speak about it, actually is what showed up is creating your liver cancer. Like, you know, you could call it putrefied resentment of a perpetrator. And everyone felt that bolt go through the room. It was like this energy, like, everyone got like chills throughout the whole room, and everyone's like, wow. And she did go into remission for about a year after that experience. So
Wow.
5 years later, it was in the, I don't know how cancers go in such odd places. It was on the artery inside her liver. So they couldn't go in the liver and scrape the artery because it might blow out into aneurysm. So it's like, you just have to let it be there and let it grow, you know, ebb and flow, grow or recede. And about 5 years later, it got the better of her. But who knows if that helped her live 5 years longer? We don't know. But it was quite powerful. And 100 people are like, where the hell did that? She was even, where did that come from? But I said, you know, once I said the word incest, that was like an ancestral secret, maybe 100 years ago, but it was still held in the physical body. Remember, she has segments of their DNA in her body. So the secret would be in a conscious field around the DNA. There is a science to that, just so our people know it's not woo-woo. It's called epigenetics. So UCLA, a lot of colleges are studying epigenetics. It's the historical impact on your DNA. I have multi-generational cancer in my male line. And of course, men of those generations smoked when they were 12 years old. So, you know, that probably is a cofactor in actually throat cancer in my male line for about 3 generations. So maybe that's why I got into healing, and I'm so expressive. So I won't have that fate of dying from that. And I don't smoke too.
So Gary, what about things of a surprisingly positive nature coming out?
Well, the biggest surprise is that we're here. And one thing that I find surprising is, say you have a young girl who is incested by a father, an uncle, or a neighbor, could be anyone. And the fact that she would grow up and want to become a mother after having sexual abuse, you know, pre-puberty or in puberty, you know, whenever those negative events, that's to me kind of the miracle of creation, that they still would trust life enough. Or Jewish people who came out of Auschwitz and decided to have a Jewish baby, you know, post-World War II, after that horrible experience of being, you know, starved and murdered by Hitler, that they would have enough hope that they could birth a new future in spite of the horrible trauma they went through. I see that as like the miracle of creation.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about these representatives.
Yes, yeah.
How do people qualify, if you will, to become a rep? I mean, I don't think they just...
There's no qualification, just off the street, just come right
Hey,
in.
You busy? Come in here for a minute.
Exactly. Well, they would hear about the workshop and want to be there to experience it. And then I don't know who's going to pick. And one client said, oh, you had told all these people in the room my entire family history, and you told them to be my mother or father. I said, I didn't tell them a word. I said, you picked. How could I tell everyone that they were going to represent? You said nothing to them, and they portrayed my family down to the emotional detail. I said, yeah, that's how this works. I had a woman in Chicago actually on Zoom this weekend, and there was a rift between her and her mother. And she emailed me after. She said, how did this person who doesn't even know me say the exact things my mother would say to my rep in the room? So the client will have their own rep, because we all have filters. So a representative is, say, a man or woman in the room will be your father, yourself, your father. So there's a rep for yourself as well. So you can objectively look at what you're carrying in your family system. Now, the representative, a total stranger, doesn't even know you. They might know your first name. I don't put last names, just your first names. Don't tell anyone about the issue, so they can tap into the bigger consciousness too. They have a defense system for their family system, but they have no defense for your family system. And so scientifically, if you want to add a little science to it, it's called mirror neurons. Like a newborn baby knows that its mother, it vibrates the vibration of the mother, or frequency of the mother, you could say. So it knows it wants to be close to its mother. So the mirror neurons in the baby's brain, which is a brand new being, ties into the mother's mirror neurons. So the human mind has mirror neurons. They're always active. They're always consciousness, but we don't voluntarily go into that field, which people do because they come to the workshop to experience that.
Wow. What about, have you ever had like twins or multiples? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they can have very different experiences because they come in to experience different things, but there is a similarity. But one of the most interesting things about it is the whole family system changes. I was working with somebody in Palm Springs when I lived there, and we were working on somebody's mother issue, and a gay Mormon guy said, "Hey, I have a mother issue with my family. I've been rejected by my whole family because of my lifestyle, allegedly." And I said, well, let's do a 5-minute exercise with you. And we picked a mother rep. He was himself. And I said, I'm your son. I'm your gay son. I leave all of your beliefs and homophobic beliefs with you. That's what you believe. That's not me. That's yours. I leave it with you. And I had him turn around and walk away. A month ago, 5 years later, he says, you're not going to believe this. Since I did that exercise with you, my whole family system has changed, and the homophobia is gone now after 5 years in a Mormon family system.
Wow.
I can't thank you enough for spending that 5 minutes with me. What we did is we created a healthy boundary and let his family carry their religious beliefs, and he was still their son. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. He still honors that he's the son, but he's not buying into their homophobic beliefs. They were so nasty, that they pushed him away and rejected him because it wasn't godly, or whatever Mormons believe is wrong with that part of the natural order, so to speak.
So, Gary, do you find that what's the majority rule as far as why people seek this type of healing?
Well, number one, to be honest, nothing else has worked. A lot of people have been to psychotherapy, psychotherapists, this and that. And I think it works more effectively because consciousness is under everything. So I was an extremely battered child, very negative childhood. Luckily, my spirit had the courage to survive it and not be a serial killer from the anger and horror I experienced. Right. But at the same time, it's like consciousness is always there. And I'm getting to the insight that we actually have a bigger protector than our family system. What is that consciousness? So like, who protected Oprah when she was abused? Would that family have abused her if they know they had a future billionaire?
Right.
But they act as though she's a piece of trash. Do anything you want with her and blah, blah, blah. We don't care. She's a non-person. Well, look at probably 50% of planet Earth know what the word Oprah means. So here's the conundrum. Would Oprah have become Oprah if she didn't overcome those obstacles through her spirit to be a leader on planet Earth, a conscious leader, compassionate conscious leader on planet Earth? Would that have happened if she didn't rise from the ashes, so to speak, like a phoenix?
Right.
So did that serve her in a different way? Now, other people, of course, would be alcoholics, depressed, use fentanyl, kill themselves over the same pain. They would take that path. Well, I'm going to exit. It's too painful on earth. I'm going to overdose and die. But then other people, it's a test of their mettle. And they say, okay, I'm going to overcome this challenge. I'm going to make, as Beyonce would say, I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons and just do something great with it. And a lot of people do that. I feel I've done it in my life. Oprah's done it, and everyone who tries to better themselves, and ascend from the ashes of the pain of their childhood or their family system. It's a testament to human spirit, ultimately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, for sure. So, personally, as a facilitator of this work, you know, it's your gift. It is a divine gift. And with that, I'm sure most of us who work through our divine gifts, creating that what is referred to as that low-hanging fruit
Yeah.
for people in the world. It's a double-sided knife.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
There are those thrilling, exciting, over the moon type experiences, but then there's a lot of disappointment and pain because you know that this is there for the taking.
Yeah.
But people just won't take it.
Right. Absolutely.
Talk about that burden of how you just wish you could just, close your eyes and spread this all over, so people would know that it was available and how important it is to everything. Talk about how you deal with that, because that's a big piece.
Well, one of the biggest pieces that you're mentioning is choosing to be a victim is actually a choice. So something about victimization is when anyone's been victimized, they feel they have no choice. Someone overpowered them. So one of the key insights that I've developed after doing all this work is that every perpetrator was a victim first. So to try to get to a place of unconditional love and neutrality, we have to know that the perpetrators suffered unimaginable stuff because they're trying to get their power back by repeating the offense that happened to them. And so every generation, there may be perpetrator victim energy traveling down the family line. But like with the Mormon family, we separated him from the belief. So we try to separate the victim from the perpetrator because, the biggest insult of victimization, especially sexual incest, is that the victim has to carry the energy of the perpetrator, the trauma that happened to their physical body, and they have to keep it silent. So that's like 3 or 4 violations of, let's say, the human spirit, just from one perverted sexual act on a child, pedophilia, whatever. And it could be a teenager, it could be adult as well. It can happen, rapes happen all over the place too. And I've dealt with that too. When people are older, it turns into sexual violence, So having compassion for the ancestor, it doesn't mean you have to forgive them. Just understand that they were victimized and they're trying to get their power back by repeating the same thing. It's not to let them off the hook, but it's to see the bigger picture that everyone is suffering. Now, here's a bizarre thing that might challenge the audience. Sometimes there's loyalty to being a victim. Say one woman is victimized, she might say, well, to be a woman in this family system, I have to be a victim like my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. So it sounds kind of crazy, but sometimes in the lineage of the family system, there's a loyalty to suffering. To be part of a family system, you have to suffer in the same way. If it's sexual violence or whatever, every woman has to carry that. Or some women will carry that and not have the sexual violence happen to them, but the energy of the ancestors is in them because their forebears had that negative experience. And they will carry it without the actual experience. And it could manifest as depression or some other psychological thing, and I'm not a psychotherapist and don't pretend to be, but it can show up like, there can be helpless sexual violence here, and then the great-granddaughter will be depressed and not know what the depression is. Well, it's the secret energy of unresolved sexual abuse in her ancestry.
Wow, that's deep.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I'm not afraid to go there. That's where the juices of healing reside. So.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you about something that I experienced. I kind of touched on it since we had our session, right? It wasn't long after, I think within the next 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget it. I was talking about it. I talk about it all the time. You guys probably remember me talking about this. But people in person, like my clients and stuff, when we're together, I'll talk about this. It really happened. I just had floodlights installed on the 2 trees that are on the corners of our house. And the boy who did it said, well, it's in your phone. And so tonight at 7:00, they're going to come on. So I was like, ooh, goody. I couldn't wait. So 6:58, I'm right there like a dodo staring at the bank of LED lights, and right at 7, poof, they came on. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I can't see. So as the spots started to clear, I saw 2 people begin to appear.
Wow.
And it was a man and a woman, and they were African American, but it was not this day and time. I could tell by their clothes. And the thing is, I know they were slaves. I know they were.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because of their clothing, and it wasn't because of the shack. And I say shack because I know it wasn't a log house or anything, because it was flat pieces of wood that didn't fit. You could see some kind of a light, like a lantern or a fire flickering through the
cracks. Yeah.
Through the cracks inside. And they were in between 2. So it felt like a row. It just felt like a row. But they were facing each other and they were holding hands. And the girl, she was way shorter than the guy. And she was looking up and she was going, why would you do this again? Last time you tried this, they took your foot. This time they're going to kill you. He said, I don't care. I have to do it, but I'm going to be successful. She goes, how do you know that? He goes, because this time, first of all, he goes for 2 reasons. He goes, first of all, this time I'm not running from something. I'm running towards something. And she goes, and what's the second reason? He goes, well, this time I'm not even running for me. She goes, well, if you're not running for you, who in the world could you be running for? And I promise you, because I'm standing back here, they're in front of me. I'm like going like this.
Right, exactly.
And he goes, this time, because they're in between the 2 houses, it's point that way. He goes, this time, I'm running for him. And she and I both go like this. And Gary, I promise you, I saw myself standing in my driveway, staring at my phone, holding my phone and staring at those lights.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful. I wanted to look back to where I wanted to look from me standing in the driveway somewhere, but somebody said, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that, or something, like some wormhole or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just looked, and later I got the download that the reason I was shown that was because ancestors have done their best. They had big dreams, and they did their best within the world in which they lived, but they had a lot of overflow. And right before passing on to what is next, into whatever form, into whatever place, a lot would panic and say, what about all this leftover, this overflow? Is it just going to go to waste? And they say, of course not. Look down there towards what are those lights? Those are your future ancestors coming towards this moment.
Yeah.
Well, why is that one so bright? And they go, well, that's Larry. He will begin life as Larry, but he will be known as Loren. Well, is he going to do something? He's going to do great things. So if I leave what I have left to him, you're saying that's exactly what we're saying. And then the ancestor said, okay, I bequeath all of my overflow to him.
Absolutely.
I've never talked to anyone other than just sharing the story. Really speak to the ancestral piece. Tell me what that means to you.
Well, it sounds like you had an interdimensional experience where kind of were they communicating verbally, or was it like a telepathic back and forth?
I was watching the conversation.
Oh, wow.
As if it were in real time.
Wow.
But it wasn't like they knew I was there.
Right, exactly. That's fascinating.
Like it happened somewhere in time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But I would call that an interdimensional experience. Somehow their timeline showed itself to you in real time. And that's really a divine experience. I mean, that's amazing, absolutely amazing.
So when you hear that, you don't automatically think, because I don't share it often, because I say,
Yeah,
they're going to think I'm crazy.
no, I don't think so at all. I think that's a very special, yeah. Because what if all times exists? A lot of people that have had near-death experiences, which I find fascinating. It's like all those timelines are existing at the same time. I've had sometimes when I go to sleep, I get images, like I'll see a black hole and I'll just kind of go into it. Then I'll see Native Americans on a plane with horses or whatever. And I'm saying, wow, what am I tapping into that I see all these Native Americans, on a plane?
Yeah.
And I just watch, what shows up in that quasi conscious between waking and sleeping, what shows through. But, some people, a term for that's common is called a bleed through. It's like one time dimension bleeds through the current. Many movies have shown this kind of thing cinematically. And it was like almost like you had an interdimensional bleed through of the actual physical past in your presence for you to witness.
And it is a divine memory.
It's sacred that happened.
Sacred.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, every time I talk about it, I can smell the wood.
Yeah.
That I smelled burning on the air.
Mm-hmm.
I can, and I started to say, it wasn't the housing, it wasn't the clothing, the way their hair was that let me know 100% that they were slaves. It wasn't even those things.
Yeah.
The defining characteristic was their skin. There was like some kind of a dusting, some spiritual dusting covering them.
Yeah.
That it was, I don't even know what it was, but
yeah.
I remember I was fixated looking at it. It was just amazing. And so, and it happened. It's got to be like 90 days after we did our thing together.
Yeah. Well, we open a larger conscious field with this. I mean, how is it that the biological family within 30 to 40 days after a constellation would contact the client? She never had contact her entire life till right after. So sometimes I feel like the constellation, when that shows up as adoption or whatever, it puts an energetic buoy out there in the universe. Like, hey, I'm here. Don't forget about me. I'm still in the ocean of life with you. And then they almost energetically feel that, and they make contact with her. And a lot of family systems I work with, I say, don't talk to your mother about this. Don't. And they'll start saying things. My mother had in LA, the rep felt my mother was sexually abused. And I said, I've thought so too my entire life, but she never spoke about it. Sure enough, I went home for Thanksgiving. I used to fly back on the holidays. And sure enough, at Thanksgiving, she said, oh, by the way, I was sexually abused when I was 4 years old. She never said that. But within a few months after I experienced the constellation, she started talking about that part of her life, which she never told any of us.
Wow.
And it's absolutely fascinating. So it opened something in her field.
Yes.
So we're really opening the consciousness of the entire family system.
And
they start to reveal secrets.
And I'm telling you, I had not even remembered much about the experience we had. I remember it, but I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I woke up thinking about it all the time.
Right, exactly.
But then this thing happened.
Yeah.
And it's like they wanted me to know, because what it did do, it removed that constant WHY. I kept saying, or how can this be happening to me? Why does this feel like I'm not the only one making this happen? These things, how do I know these things that no one's ever told me?
Right, exactly.
All of these things that were so deeply rooted.
Yeah.
And then that happened.
Yeah.
And the only ancestral anything, not even a conversation, was the work I did with you and the people you had in that room that day.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say, as we get out of here, listen, guys, check this stuff out. Buy the book. Get over to GaryStuartHealing.com. I'm going to run that along the bottom.
Thank you.
And I've dropped that YouTube link already inside the comment section.
Yeah. So, that YouTube, they did a whiteboard of showing how it developed, what it is. It's in like 2 minutes. It gives you the whole rundown of the history. And some people see visually more than audio, so it'll help. It'll help people understand.
Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough.
Thanks for sharing your divine experience. That was really powerful.
Well, and it's interesting that you describe it as that, because I'll tell you, and I mean this, and you guys know, go back and watch my content. From that, once that happened, and I tell my coaching clients that too, every point I make now about something other than man-made, those spiritual experiences, I now throw the word divine in front of it all.
Yeah.
In front of it all. And it changes the spirit. It's like a brand new envelope in which I put the letter of purpose within. It's a different kind of a stamp that goes on the envelope. It changes everything. And without even knowing how I know it, it puts an additional layer of protection around the legacy piece. So that it stays ready to be found.
Right.
Exactly the way we leave it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You, there's a lot here, you guys. Get over and check it out. I'm going to tell you, I was skeptical because I was like, what in the world is this? Right. But it wasn't an immediate thing.
Right.
But when I was ready, they were ready for me.
So honored to support that. Gary, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Creative Divine Memories is a beautiful way to express it too.
Yes. Listen, you guys, get out. Create more divine memories today and every day. Gary Stewart, you're the real deal. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do in this world. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Wonderful.
All right. So, you guys, check him out. I'll see you tomorrow. Have the best day ever. I love you, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.